Hi, Vijay. Hello, everyone. Okay, so what we did in the previous class was with respect to the Ramsar sites. I think I have discussed Ramsar sites, isn't it? And Nishan, I got to know that some lectures were not uploaded. Yes? Which lecture you were referring to? बहुत पुराने lectures थे क्या? Which you were referring to? 28th April. अच्छा, okay. ठीक है. So now we have to go further about, we have to start talking about Ramsar sites. I think we have done in the previous class functions, causes of their degradation, right? So just starting with this, I was just going through one of the article on the wetlands, and there the site was earth.org, and I was just referring to one of the articles there. So if even in your case, if you want to go through some of the articles with respect to the sites which are having more of environmental news, then you can refer to this earth.org. So in that, one of the article was saying that wetlands are basically the natural wetlands, which I'm talking about. Since the last topic we did was wetland degradation, so let me just highlight this only, and then we'll move to the new topic. So it was saying that the natural wetlands are degrading and your artificial wetlands are increasing. So the point is that the kind of the emphasis that this wetlands required, the kind of emphasis they deserve, that was not being provided to the wetlands. Why? Because they were never considered important earlier. But since we got to know the importance of this wetland, we got to know why they are important, they started highlighting all of this. Okay. So if we see the data from the previous years, then it is clearly evident that natural wetlands have declined to a larger percentage with respect to the natural wetlands. They have decreased a lot, but if I talk about the artificial wetlands, they have definitely increased. So now the point is that these wetlands, why they were not considered important? What was the issue? Why they were not considered important in first place earlier, and how the institutions started emphasizing them? How they started emphasizing them? How they started prioritizing them? That is also a different topic to read altogether, right? So the point is, what was happening earlier? These wetlands, first of all, they are of very small. They're spread in a small area. Sometimes you do not even know that these are of ecological importance. For example, if I say there's a marshy peatland, for you it's just a peatland. For you it's just a marshy area, a swamp. But for the species, for the waterfall species, that could be of major importance. That could be a breeding ground. That could be a spawning ground for them. That could be a nesting ground for them, right? So considering all these things, wetlands were made important. And second reason was that these wetlands were not given, they do not have a flagship species. If you see nowadays, can you see that national park, biodiversity, and the biodiversity only, if we talk about the wildlife sanctuaries, if we talk about the biosphere reserves, we do have a flagship species, we do have an umbrella species which is representing them. And I hope that you know what is the meaning of umbrella species. These are the species which are important. Important in sense, first of all, important in sense in numbers, and also other species are also dependent upon them, right? Similarly, keystone species or umbrella species. So with respect to national park, wildlife sanctuary, biosphere reserve, we have flagship species or umbrella species, but till now we have not declared any of the Ramsar sites, right? We will discuss what are the Ramsar sites, or just say wetland only right now, because we have not discussed the Ramsar sites as of now. Any of the wetlands, they do not have the flagship species. For example, majorly what happens, these wetlands are known as a waterfowl birds, waterfowl habitats. Why they are known as a waterfowl habitats? First of all, understand Waterfall means the birds which are staying nearer to the water. They are highly dependent on the water for their for staying over there. They are eating for the feeding habits, for the nesting, for spawning, for everything. They are dependent on the water, right? So that's why we call it as the waterfall habitat also. The another name for the wetlands, another way of defining wetlands is they are waterfall habitats. So the point is, since these are so important for even for the migratory birds, if you have seen, a lot of wetlands are present on the route of the central flyway route, right? So when we are talking that these wetlands are important, they are coming under the route of the migratory birds. So definitely what will happen? It will become important. So since they are known as a waterfall habitat, it has been advised that wetlands should have a flagship species. Although now we do not have that, and there are reasons also why we should not have it. So they should have what? A flagship species. What do you mean by flagship species? A charismatic species. Flagship species कौन सी होती हैं? They are of they are charismatic. Charismatic means they look good. They are different. They are unique. Right? All these species you call it as a charismatic species. So they could be of not much utility in terms that maybe the other species are not dependent upon them, but definitely they are charismatic. And what will happen if we declare this species? For example, if I start talking Siberian quail, or if I start talking about some of the ducks, we can call these as the waterfall, right? For example, you can take the example of geese. These all are waterfall birds, right? So these birds are having what? They are dependent on the wetlands. When they're dependent on the wetlands, we can declare them as the flagship species. What would be the advantage of declaring the flagship species? Why there was an emphasis of declaring them as a flagship species? Because it gives awareness. It spreads awareness among the people. Till now, if I say that this particular national park, for example, Gir National Park, is important for lion, so it will create a sort of awareness for the people, awareness to the people. Since it will create awareness, people will start respecting the boundaries. They will start knowing that these species are important, and they will finally not indulge in any kind of activity in which they should not, with respect to anything in or maybe in the vicinity of the national park or in the national park. They will not try to violate the laws, the rules of the national park, right? So with respect to wetlands also, which are of high importance, if we know that these particular species are of importance and these are the flagship species, then what will happen? It will create an awareness. So these kind of awareness, when it will be created, it will give impetus to the conservation of wetlands. Right. That was the point. That why we should make it as a flagship species. Till now, the big gap that we could see, the big gap we could find was that there was no flagship species of this particular area. Definitely, we cannot say that waterfall birds are umbrella species. Why? Because unlike other species, for example, if you see amphibians or reptiles, they are highly endemic. Endemism in these species are high. For example, if you talk about Mediterranean basin, around 50% to 60% endemism you will find in all the species which are staying over here. But the problem with the waterfall bird, the problem with the birds is that they are not endemic. They are hardly endemic, only 10%. right? Since they are not endemic, you cannot say that these are belonging to these area, because they halt over there and they go, right? Obviously they use that area for their purposes in particular season. They come, they do stay there and they go. They are not staying over there. That is not exclusive in nature. That means that they are not only found over that place. They could be found in some other place also, because they are hovering around, they are moving around, right? Depending upon the season. So they are not having the endemism property. And what else? Because of this reason, they are not endemic, they are not a flagship species. Till now, we have not declared them as a flagship species. And also the species which are dependent, because what can happen if I say that this bird is coming in this place and they are eating up, maybe they are eating up some of the species over here, right? And the rate is declining of this particular species, right? So I cannot make it a point that this particular species is doing what? Is hampering the growth of the particular species or not. क्यों मैं ऐसा नहीं बोल सकती? Because there could be endless reasons. बहुत सारे reasons हो सकते हैं उसके. Why? Because this particular bird can dependent upon different areas for their food, right? The dependency of this particular bird can be on the different resources, can be on the different areas for the food. Why? Because this is not particularly restricted to one place. When the bird is not restricted to one place, definitely it will depend upon the different food source, it will depend upon the different areas for the food dependency, right? So there could be different reasons why the species is declining, right? There could be one species of fish, for example, if I take, there could be one species of the fish in a particular area which is declining, right? Case number one. So I can analyze that I cannot say that this is because this bird is not coming here or this bird is coming here. That is why this fish is declining. There could be other reasons also. If I am saying this particular species, for example, deer in national park is declining, I can just say it like that, because of the deer population is declining. Its impact lies directly to what? Because of the predators which are present over there. Predators means what? All the lions, tigers which are present over there, they are highly responsible for it, right? Without any doubt, I can say that. But in this aquatic system, in the wetland systems, I cannot say like that, because there can be other reasons also dependent upon it, right? So this is what with respect to the wetlands. This is one of the article was saying that we can also add in mains. आप mains में भी लिख सकते हैं, अपने suggestions में भी लिख सकते हैं if you want to write then how you can curb, how you can do, what you can do with the wetland conservation. So in wetland conservation, some of the points that you can add is talking about making this species as a flagship species, right? So that awareness can be increased. And giving these wetlands the importance they deserve. Right? What will happen in that case? Awareness among people or among citizens will increase. Okay? Just write it down. Okay. So another thing which was written in the article, that why these are declining. Why these wetlands are declining? Since wetlands are declining because of certain reasons. What reasons it could be? It is extraction of water. Extraction of water is another reason, right? Because what will happen, what happens is these wetlands act as a natural absorber of the fresh water. And finally, what happens whenever the rainfall comes or any sort of precipitation comes, they just absorb the water within themselves and then they further release it into the aquifers. Aquifers means all the soil or the rocks, etc., and they build the ground water table, right? So when that is developing, they are acting naturally as a freshwater resource, right? So when I talk about the wetlands, they are only 10%. The area that they are covering, 10% will be more, only 6 to 4%, yet they are harboring 40% of the living species. And when that is the value, that is the ecological importance of the wetland, then definitely they should be conserved. You should write some data like that. You should add some data like that, that how much they are harboring and what is the status of the wetlands in the world. So you can write down wetlands are extremely important in that area only, that note part only where you have written. लिख लीजिए. Wetlands are extremely important areas to conserve. Wetlands are important. Wetlands are extremely important areas to conserve. Full stop. Freshwater ecosystem contains more species. Freshwater ecosystem contains more species per unit area. More species. These are freshwater ecosystem. In aquatic only, you will consider wetland as freshwater ecosystem. So in the freshwater ecosystem only, write down, they cover only 5 to 6% of the world's surface. But a staggering 40% of all described species. But a staggering 40% of all described species rely on them. But a staggering, write down, 40% of all described species rely on them. Write down. According to the studies, world has lost 87% of its wetland. According to the studies, world has lost, according to the study, world has lost 87% of its wetland, 87% of its wetland over the past 300 years. Over the past 300 years, full stop. Globally, comma, the area of natural wetland has decreased. Globally, the area of natural wetland has decreased, while the area of artificial wetlands has increased. While the area of artificial wetlands have increased. Okay. Now let's come to the next part of it, which is your Ramsar Convention. So Ramsar Convention is also related to the wetland. In fact, it is the only convention with respect to the wetland that we are having. So what is Ramsar? Ramsar is a city in Iran wherein we decided that there should be some sort of a formal conservation strategy which should be brought with respect to the wetlands because they are of high ecological importance. So all the wetlands, because there should be a criteria. We wanted to make a formalized system wherein there should be some criteria. अगर criteria mentioned नहीं होंगे तो how we will declare a wetland? Wetland आप कैसे भी declare कर सकते हैं? Somebody can say that this is of high importance, किसके लिए वो important नहीं हो सकता है वो subjective हो. In sense that somebody can say that this is not of high importance to the human, but it can be important to other bird species or maybe to amphibian, right? So with respect to that, they needed some kind of a uniformity, and with respect of uniformity, they wanted some sort of a convention. So this convention was there in Iran. The city is in Iran, and therein we decided that a formalization should happen with respect to declaration of wetlands in different parts of the world. So what happened? This wetland was further, we started calling them as a Ramsar site. We started calling them as a Ramsar sites only in different parts of the world. For example, in India only, if I talk Chilika Lake is one of the Ramsar site. Chilika Lake is what? One of the, it's a wetland, and we call it as a Ramsar site. This is a Ramsar site. And in fact, this is one of the first Ramsar site that was declared initially, right? So what are we doing? This Ramsar site, this Ramsar convention has introduced some of the criteria. So they introduced 9 criteria, and in order, why they have introduced it? In order to analyze whether your particular area which you are considering as a wetland should be considered under a wetland or not. Because how many wetlands criteria they have discussed? They have discussed 9 criteria among them, what they said, all the criteria that we are discussing 1 to 9, you have to check whether they are forming a part of it or not. For example, one criteria says that your wetland should look natural or near natural. Near natural area means the wetland that you are discussing should be natural. So it should be a natural area of ecological importance or near natural. Then we can definitely consider it as a wetland. Second says that the bird species, this is one of it, it says around 2,000, 20,000 or more bird species should be dependent on wetland. अब bird species wetland पे क्यों dependent होंगी and why? देखिए, there are certain species which travel, which migrate from the polar region to different parts of the world, where it becomes really inhabitable for them to stay in the Arctic region, to stay in the cold places. So they definitely take a different sort of a route. They try to come to the tropical areas so that they can stay over there. So this is the route that they take, western birds and the birds which are coming from the Arctic region, and they take this route. When they take this route, they come in a lot of species, they come in a group, and when they come in a group, they are in large in numbers. When they come over here, they're also creating a lot of enrichment of the particular wetland. So therefore, this particular bird species will become important. So if 2,000 or more bird species, specific bird species coming, and they are halting at that place, then that particular area will also become important wetland, right? Third reason could be that there could be more wetlands present, maybe there could be more bird species, not only 2,000, 20,000 that I have taken, maybe different bird species could come over there and they can become highly important. So likewise, we have 9 total criteria. I have just discussed few of them to make you understand what criteria are all about and why we are discussing it. So either any of the criteria you fulfill to fit in the Ramsar site, or all the criteria if possible, right? So this is what the criteria are all about of Ramsar Convention. Okay, so shall we start writing about it? Okay, start with the Ramsar Convention. Put a heading Ramsar Convention. लिखिए Ramsar Convention. Put a heading Ramsar Convention and start writing. Write down Ramsar Convention, comma, established on 2nd February 1971, and we observe Ramsar Conventions on February 2nd. This is also a question and you should write down more oftenly. Prelims के लिए भी important है ये data, otherwise also आपको याद करना ही चाहिए. Write down Ramsar Convention, comma, established on February 2nd, 1971, comma, focuses on conservation. It focuses on conservation. It focuses on conservation, write down, and sustainable use of wetlands. And sustainable use of wetlands. Next point, full stop. The convention serves as a intergovernmental agreement. This serves as a intergovernmental agreement This convention serves as an intergovernmental agreement. Serves as an intergovernmental agreement and unites the commitment of the participating countries and it unites the commitments of participating countries to maintain the it unites the commitment of participating countries to maintain the it unites the commitment of participating country right now to maintain the environmental qualities of wetland ecosystem, to maintain the environmental qualities of wetland ecosystem. To maintain the environmental qualities of wetland ecosystem. Full stop. These ecosystems must be managed to ensure ecological balance. These ecosystems must be managed to ensure ecological balance. Full stop. Next, write down eligibility criteria. We will discuss 9 criteria because that can come as a direct question also, that what criteria are there for the wetlands. Although such a direct question they used to ask, but then you should know that what criteria are these. Okay. पहले आपका पूछा जाता था PYQ में criteria and all directly, but you never know. You should do the static portion as required, right? But more of analytical questions are coming more from the wetlands. Not only from the wetlands, अब सब सारे ही जितने भी आपके topics हैं, more of analytical question they are asking. They do consider that you already know the static portion. इतना तो आपको पता ही होगा, क्राइटेरिया का सब पता होगा, बट देन दे आर आस्किंग द नेक्स्ट लेवल, राइट? सो राइट डाउन एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया फॉर द रामसर साइट्स, लिखिए एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया, एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया फॉर रामसर साइट्स, एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया फॉर रामसर साइट्स, लिखिए राइट डाउन। क्राइटेरिया नंबर वन, criteria number one, a site, a site लिखिए, a site that represents unique or rare wetland type, a site, a site that represent unique or rare wetland type, या तो वो यूनिक रेयर या फिर रेयर वेटलैंड टाइप को रिप्रेजेंट करेगा, साइट दैट रिप्रेजेंट्स यूनिक और रेयर वेटलैंड टाइप, कॉमा either natural or near natural, कॉमा either natural or near natural, either natural or near natural, comma, in suitable geographic area, in suitable geographic area, should be considered, should be considered a wetland of, should be considered a wetland of natural, should be considered a wetland of natural importance. Right. Criteria number two. Criteria two is very simple, that they should support what? They should have either critically endangered species, or the species which are extinct. So all of these species should be there. They are on the verge of extinction. So if they are harboring those species which are on the verge of extinction, so definitely this should come under the wetland. For example, write down the site supports habitat, comma, species. The sites that support habitats, comma, species, or ecological communities, sites that supports species, the site that supports habitat. Please write down the complete sentence. The site that supports habitat, comma, species, or ecological communities that are at risk, such as vulnerable, comma, endangered, or critically endangered, or critically endangered. Criteria number three, write down. The site has a population of species the site has the population of species, the site has a population of species, write down, or ecological communities, population of species or ecological communities. The site has a population of species or ecological communities that are crucial for maintaining, that are crucial for maintaining that are crucial for maintaining, write down, biodiversity in a particular geographic area. They are crucial for maintaining biodiversity in a particular geographic area. They are crucial for maintaining biodiversity in a particular geographic area. Okay, in a particular geographic area. Write down criteria number 4. The site provides habitat for the plants / animals that are experiencing disturbance in their life cycle. And the criteria number 5. The site regularly supports 20,000. The site regularly supports 20,000 or more water birds. Right? Now, with respect to these are the 5 criteria, total out of 9, I have just discussed 5 to you for you. Reason being because you only need some of the criteria to discuss. You don't need to, because this is not a prelims preparation. I'm doing it's a mains preparation. It's a geography option preparation. So you should know some of the criteria which you can write down. The rest of them you can see if you really want to get in the prelims preparation. But the point is, यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा important क्या है? To know about what decisions has been taken in the COPs. What is a COP? A conference of parties. The meetings which have been taken, all the members who were the part of the Ramsar Convention, they met, right? And what decision has been taken in further meetings that they have got indulged into, right? So that is what more important. So write down some of the highlights of the COP, some of the highlights of the Ramsar conferences. Write down Ramsar Conference of Parties. Ramsar Conference of Parties. Ramsar Conference of Parties. देखिए, write down Ramsar Conference of Parties. Write down. So just like any other meeting that takes place, the Ramsar Convention, the parties means member. Please always remember when I am taking the word parties का मतलब होता है members जो already member बन चुके हैं. अब काफी लोगों को एक confusion होता है. All the students have this confusion. ये आपके prelims के लिए भी important है कि parties में क्या difference है and what is the difference when we become a party. What is the procedure to become a party? So always remember, if you are signing the document, you are not becoming a party. अगर आपने सिर्फ document को sign किया है, if you have just signed the document, signing the document is not equivalent to becoming a party. That is just showing, you're just showing by signing that you are aligning with the objectives of the convention. Signing the convention means that you are just aligning with the objectives of the convention, and you obliges you are not, just a moral obligation that comes to you on you that you are not going to do certain things. For example, आपका जो BBNJ एक document है which is your beyond biodiversity beyond national jurisdiction. India has just signed this document. We have not ratified it yet. We have just signed the document. So we do have a moral obligation. हमारे पास अभी क्या है? हमारे पास moral obligation है that we are not going to indulge in certain activities which we should not, because we are aligning with the objective what you are saying, but we still need to assess and think upon it. We have to go through the all clauses and see the pros and cons, and then we later will ratify. So who ratifies the document? We are not ratifying. For example, our representative is going from here. For example, from the Ministry of External Affairs, somebody is going and attending the meeting. So what they will do, if they are having a meeting, they are aligning with the document, if they are saying it's good for the country, then definitely they can sign over there. But the decision of finally ratifying it, because ratifying a thing becomes what, it becomes a legal obligation. So that is the difference. अगर आपने सिर्फ साइन किया डॉक्यूमेंट को, आप पार्टीज नहीं बनेंगे. ये आपका मोरल ऑब्लिगेशन है that we are aligning with your thing and we will support you, and it will come with the moral obligations. Okay. I'll come. Just 2 minutes. No, it's going on. Just give me 2 minutes. Okay. So it will come with a moral obligation, right? But अगर आपका member बन चुका है, if they have become a member कैसे बनेंगे? If you will sign the document. Signing the document will make you the member. And in the case you have signed the document, it becomes what? It is now your legal obligation. अब आपने ratify कर दिया है, और ratification ऐसे नहीं होगा, Parliament will ratify it. It will come here. Parliament will see through all the pros and cons. They will see what could be the repercussions of any of the clause, if there is any, and then finally this comes with a legal obligation. And if you fail to adhere to any of the clause of the document, then the legal penalties will be imposed on you. That is what it means. Okay. So always remember, when I'm saying the parties का मतलब conference of parties means members. India, Argentina, America, they all are the members. तो क्या parties क्या है? Members है. Members कब बनते हैं? जब आप document को ratify करते हैं. Ratify का procedure ये है. Sign करते हैं तब आप member नहीं बनते हैं. Right? So this is what. Okay. So give me a minute. You have to do one question. Just do one mains question. Ishan and Sam, enough time for this. Have you written? Okay, good. All right. Now, so I was discussing this conference of parties. So let's discuss some of the current affairs with respect to the conference of parties. Write down. Likhiye. Write down. So first we'll discuss about Wuhan Declaration. Write down. The Ramsar site. What she's saying, ma'am. Could you just elaborate that? Ma'am, can you just elaborate that? Should we also include any initiative to promote the wetlands conservation in question? Yes, definitely. That is definitely you should include any sort of conservation which is with respect to the wetlands. You should definitely include any campaign, any sort of awareness idea which has been promoted by any of the institutions. You should do that. Okay. Next, write down Wuhan Declaration. So this is what jo aapka we were discussing. So we will discuss some of the COPs. We call it as Wuhan Declaration. Wuhan is again city in China, and everybody knows about it. For what reasons it's famous? So write down Wuhan Declaration, China, and the protection of wetland areas, and the protection of wetland areas, and the protection of wetland areas 2022. It was COP 14 2022. It was COP 14 2022. What have they said, what they have decided in this COP, write down. It established the plan. You have to include, see, all of this current affairs which I'm giving, all of this information which I'm giving, all the data, you have to include wherever it's possible. Write down, comma, established a plan. It established a plan. It established a plan for the period of 2025-30. Establish a plan for the period of 2000. Is established a plan for the period of, write down, 2025-30 to protect 5,000 wetlands. To protect 5,000 wetlands, right? So Wuhan Declaration, why it is important? It is important with respect to it established a plan for the period of 2025 to 30 to protect what? 5,000 wetlands. Where it happened? It happened in Wuhan. Wuhan is a city. So write down this important information. Okay. Now we will talk about the Montreux record. So now what is this term called Montreux record? See, out of all the Ramsar sites that has been declared, there could be some of the Ramsar sites which are vulnerable, which have occurred, which are occurring or can occur a sort of a degradation in their ecological conditions, right? So Ramsar sites of high importance which have occurred occurring or likely to occur some likely to occur degradation in their habitat, or in their ecological conditions. That is a better word. In their ecological conditions, right? Write down. Write down this statement. And why? What are the reasons for it to occur? There could be some sort of technological development. It could be because of some sort of technological development or human interventions. All this could be an important reason for this to occur, right? All of this could be an important reason for this to occur. Write down. Now, with respect to India, how many sites that has been declared in the Montreux? So, Chilika was earlier under the part of a Montreux record. Now, when it got restored, I mean the condition got better, then we finally unlisted this Chilika lake out of the Montreux record. Now, right now, currently we are having Keoladio and Loktak lake. Keoladio and Loktak lake as a part of Montreux record. Why? because the ecological character, the changes in the ecological characters in both of these are occurring at a high level. Therefore, it was required to put them under Montreux record. What is the Montreux record? Nothing but your Ramsar sites which have been declared, right? Out of all of them, only the Ramsar sites which are of high importance and the ecological character of them is changing. So we need to put them under a special attention. That's it. That is what your Montreux records are, right? So Chilika Lake is one, and right now we having this. So, and also do not forget to write the theme of the wetland. So the theme in 2025, which was decided for the wetland day was, write down the theme for 2025, write down protecting wetlands for a common future. That was the theme, protecting wetlands for a common future. Protecting wetlands for a common future. Okay. So apart from that, not only Montreux record is another thing which is very interesting. Recently, Indore and Udaipur has been credited with the important cities with respect to the wetland. What is this? What is this wetland accreditation? Wetland accreditation means there is another term which I am discussing apart from this, which is wetland accreditation. It means that you are crediting, you are giving the credits to the city which is of high ecological importance, which is having a wetland, and it is promoting a lot in order to conserve it, right? Recently, Indore and Udaipur has been added to this list from India. Earlier, we didn't have any of the cities from India as designated as wetland city accreditation, right? Which is recently this has been added. Earlier, many countries have been added into it. I mean, the cities of the many countries have been added into it, but recently Udaipur and Indore has been added in the particular list, which you call the short form is WCA. So you can write down something about the wetland accredited cities as well. Write down wetland accredited cities. Write down the heading wetland accredited cities. Wetland accredited cities, write down. Voluntary accreditation, write down. Voluntary. Voluntary accreditation. Voluntary accreditation. Recognizing cities for the conservation. Recognizing cities for the conservation. Recognizing cities for the conservation of natural and human-made wetlands. Of the natural and human-made wetlands. Right? Voluntary accreditation, recognizing cities for the conservation of natural and human-made wetlands. जब आप naturally recognize करते cities को for, you are crediting, you are giving a credit to a city for doing what? For some sort of the initiative that they have taken for the conservation of the wetlands. So you will recognize them. You call them as a wetland accredited cities. Voluntary accreditation recognizing cities for the conservation of the natural and human-made wetlands. Write down. When we approved this, when we have started approving all of this, write down, approved at COP 12, 2015. This idea was approved when we just discussed about COPs. It was discussed in COP 12, 2015. It was discussed in COP 12, 2015, where it held in Uruguay. Write down. It was held in Uruguay. Write down. Uruguay. Sometimes the Y is silent, so you also call it as Uruguay, not A, right? So with respect to what has been seen written over here, I'm reading out with that. But if you see a lot of channels where the reports from the Uruguay is coming, so they sometimes pronounce it as Goa. Y is silent, right? So write down Uruguay under Ramsar Convention. Under Ramsar Convention. Under Ramsar Convention. So this held in, so this COP, Conference of Parties, which is COP 12, held in Uruguay. And this was important in sense it uh, led to the creation of WCA, right? From there on, we started crediting different countries, different cities for their contribution. Write down. It is valid for 6 years. It is valid for 6 years. 6 साल के लिए valid है ये, right? It is valid for 6 years, comma, renewal requires meeting 6 criteria. It is valid for 6 years and renewal requires meeting 6 criteria. आपको फिर से वो 6 क्राइटेरिया को क्या करना पड़ेगा, फुलफिल करना पड़ेगा, मीट करना पड़ेगा in order to come into WCA. Right, next write down. Okay, so now we will discuss some of the Ramsar sites which are present in India. And if you have seen recently, there is a 99th Ramsar site which has been recently added in Uttar Pradesh. Apart from that, earlier, how many sites we are having in India as Ramsar sites? What is the number is touching to? It's 99th now. We have 99 Ramsar sites. Abhi recently, there is one Ramsar site which has been added in India, making the numbers to 99. So earlier we have, so how many, which are the states which are having the maximum number of the Ramsar sites? You should know that, which is Tamil Nadu is having the maximum number, right? So if you see in the Tamil Nadu, I have not counted, but they are having the maximum one. Then you are having around 10 in Uttar Pradesh, or you can write down 11 now because 99th one which has been added recently. So you can write down 11 is in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, which is nearly about, I think, 20. I am not sure about it, but definitely it is 20. But definitely the number is near this only, 19 or 20, right? So the maximum number you can write down, maximum number of Ramsar sites is in Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh, right? Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. Okay. So if I discuss some of the Ramsar sites which are extremely important, and there has been a direct question which has come from this Ramsar site, is Loktak Lake, which is one of the very important site. Reason being why it is important, first, this Ramsar site is under the Montrix record. So definitely it will be of a high importance, right? So this Loktak Lake is basically lying in a Kabul Lamjau, should I write it? Kabul Lamjau National Park. And this national park is the only floating national park of Manipur. Wherein this Loktak Lake is lying. It is having the Fundis is like the kind of feature that they are having. Next, species like Sangai deer, which you also call it as a dancing deer, is exclusive to this place. Is exclusive to this place. So you can know certain information about all the Ramsar sites which are present. Why I'm telling you that? Because it can be asked in some of the question, or directly the question can come with respect to it. They can ask especially about the particular lake, and then you have to describe about it, or a wetland. Then you should know that it's a wetlands of high importance, and you should write certain things about it. So for that purpose only, you should note certain features, certain wetlands, certain Ramsar sites in order to support your answers. Okay. We can discuss one more in this. For example, Koleru Lake. Now, this Koleru Lake is in Andhra Pradesh. This is also a Ramsar site. It is lying at the confluence of Krishna and Godavari. It is fresh water. Although this information is important for prelims only. If you want to write in the means, that's up to you. It's a freshwater lake, right? So you should know small things. ज़्यादा चीज आपको क्या पता होना चाहिए that for what reasons this particular site is important. For example, any migratory bird. If any migratory bird they are supporting. For example, in Northeast, if they are supporting the spot-billed pelican, so that will become important. Or in South, the certain flamingos are being supported. So this will become important, right? So write down with respect to Koleru, great pelican, spot-billed pelican is found here in Andhra Pradesh. You can write this with respect to this. It's a bird, spot-billed pelican is a bird, and they are supporting it. That's why it is becoming important. Okay. The next thing that we have to do is conservation. So just look at some of the strategies how we can conserve. Conservation of wetland. So one of the conservation of wetland strategies I've already shared in the starting of the class, wherein I was discussing one of the articles which I've read on the conservation strategies. That is what awareness campaign. How you can make it aware. How you can increase the awareness by making or by designating some of the important birds as a flagship species, right? So you can write down this conservation strategy that you can declare some of the important birds of that wetland as a flagship species. What will happen in that case? It will increase the awareness among the localites, and they will start conserving the species, and they will start conserving the species. Next item, regular monitoring and assessment. There has to be a regular monitoring and assessment. आपको रेगुलर मॉनिटर करना पड़ेगा, रेगुलर एसेस करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल बाय कंडक्टिंग सर्विस, यू कैन राइट डाउन बाय कंडक्टिंग सर्विस, monitoring by conducting surveys and studies to track changes, right? Next item, artificial regeneration and restoration. Next strategy is artificial regeneration and restoration. What do you mean by artificial regeneration? See, you can introduce some of the species over here, or you can create an environment artificially in order to increase the numbers of some of the species. That can be also done, which you call it as artificial regeneration. So artificial regeneration could have a lot of various strategies, right, under it. For example, you are planting some of the trees, right? That is also coming under planting some native trees or introducing some species for the restoration. But this all will come under the artificial regeneration. Why artificial? Because you have to induce it from outside. There has to be an external push that you have to give in order to make it survive. Next, you can write down eutrophication control. Extremely important. Fourth, eutrophication control. अब eutrophication control में आप एक example लिख सकते हैं. You can write down the example of eutrophication control. Recently, Bagh wetland के अंदर there is a NGT, I mean National Green Tribunal, which they have banned a certain kind of flower. Why? Because it was proliferating so much, it was spreading so much at a high level, so it blocked the passage of the sunlight, and it didn't allow the species which is residing beneath to survive, right? So we also call it as a pink bloom because flowers were blooming, so the name was given to it was a pink bloom. So this example can be added in Bagh wetland. The name of the flower was, I think it was, if you know the name of the flower, you can write down pink bloom, that's it. NGT, I don't, National Green Tribunal. I'll let you know the name, the scientific name it was. NGT, which is your National Green Tribunal. Banned. It banned the flower. I'll let you know the name, scientific name. Bracket में लिखेंगे pink bloom as it was hampering the growth of native species. Or you can say it was hampering the species, growth of species beneath the water body, water, right? Okay. The last, write down environmental awareness programs. जो आप the first point we will accept the flagship species में educating local communities about the importance of wetlands that you can do. Okay. Next, you can write down about wildlife protection strategies. Wildlife protection strategies. Wildlife protection strategies. Write down wildlife protection measures or strategies. Enforcing laws to prevent illegal poaching and habitat destruction. Prevent or enforcing laws to prevent illegal poaching and habitat destruction. Last one, write down flood and water management plans. Flood and water management plans. That's all about it, right? Thank you so much, class. Please do the questions which I've given to you. Two main questions I've given for the practice. Please do practice them. One is analytical, one is factual. Thank you so much, class.